Hi, this is Suzanne Ratty with Ideas360 Live, and we are here again to introduce you to local business owners that can be resources for your business or even share their experiences of how they grew their business. And today I am here with Wanda Smith at Symphony Placements. Welcome, Wanda. Good to have you. I'm so excited about this interview because I know you have a lot of experience and you have some funny stories to share too. So we'll dig right into it. So for a lot of the women that are going to be watching this broadcast, you started a business and scaled it eventually to something that's national. Just tell us a little about what you do and how you got started.
Well, 30 some years ago, I started in temporary staffing. I actually wanted to be a salesperson on the street, and I wanted to sell a product or a service, but primarily a product. And nobody would hire me because it was a male-dominated industry. They didn't feel that women. I have a fly buzzing around, so I'm really stupid. It's a stupid fly. So it was really a male-dominated industry, and it was really blatant discrimination when it came to us women. Now I'm going back to the 80s, girls. So it's a long way back. And for some of you younger folks, you won't realize that you couldn't even get a credit card in your name till in the 70s. So that's another podcast. But anyway, I ended up getting a position at a national temporary staffing company selling their services. These were the days when you could go walk into a business. They had a receptionist, and that was that fly again. And you got to find out who the decision makers were or was, and you could leave a card or a little goodie, because leaving goodies was a big thing back in the 80s and the 90s. It was just a whole different way of doing business when we compare how we do business today.
Yeah.
So I was with these different size companies, mom and pop, nationals, internationals, for almost 20 years. And then I said, I can do this widget, or I can build this widget better. So I decided I was just going to jump in both feet and open up my own staffing company.
And
so
you did it.
I'm sorry, what, Suzanne?
And so you just did it.
I just did it. 2006 was when I did it. As it turned out, I'm not afraid of anything, and I just believe that I can do it, and I know I can do it. So I think my timing would have been different if I had known we were going to have a recession in 2008. For you that don't know, the economic temperature is taken by staffing firms. We're the first people that know when a recession is coming because businesses lay off all their temporary staffing. And we see all these different items happening, and we realize something's coming, our economy's not going to be in a good shape. So, and that's what happened to me. In 2007, I just started to make some money. Well, not make it, but I was billing people. And I was really on my way, and I felt really good about it. And wouldn't you know that November of 2007 is when, oh my goodness, we're in a recession.
Yeah.
So the little 14 people that I had working for me, each client kept calling and saying, hey, take them off the assignment. So I went, oh my goodness. So I'm sitting there with a new business, 2 employees, all these bills, and no jobs to send anybody on, no billing. So, which is a point in fact for anybody thinking about starting a business. You have to make sure that the capital is there, it's ready, because you don't know what's going to happen to you once you start. And without capital behind you, all your work will just go, and nothing's worse than, the business didn't fly and then you owe all these people. So,
so were you on your own at that point? Like,
yeah,
employee wise. Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
So I think that's a great lesson, though, especially in today's environment, that, crises happen in all forms of economic crises, the pandemic. And as a business, what was the key to turning that around? Was it just not giving up, or what was it?
Well, laying spread eagled in the bed at night till 3 a.m. in the morning, staring at the ceiling, thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to get more money? Other than that, I mean, you have to go through that panic first, and have a lot of personal talks with yourself. I just went back to the basics. I said, you know what? I can get business. There's still business out there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in that office. Instead of doing 10 cold calls, I'm going to do 20. And the next day I'm going to do 30. And the next day I'm going to do 40. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel. Right. There are certain things in sales that you do not have to reinvent. You just remember the basics and go back and do it.
Yeah.
So
how long were you a solopreneur before you started scaling and taking on employees? And how long were you?
You know what? I misled you. I hired 2 people immediately.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I did. I started with 2 people and me.
Okay.
And because I needed to recruit and at the same time sell.
Right.
So it was a little difficult for me to try to do both at one time.
Now, do you think that's an interesting point? Do you think that a lot of, not just women, but a lot of startup businesses make the mistake, because I've seen it happen too, where they don't dedicate time and energy to selling? They think they can wear all the hats. Do you think that's a big mistake? And was that a component of your success?
Yeah, I think so, because I don't think anybody can sell their business better than the person who owns the business. And the face-to-face, the building of relationships. Oh, I'm talking to the owner of the company who started this company, and she's going to make sure everything is done right where it wasn't done right by maybe a competitor. So I think that is a dynamic edge over your competitors, especially if you're competing against all these international companies that have salespeople, typically young, right out of college. I always call them, Sally, Sally salesperson who goes in and smiles and everything. And then the next thing they've got is this old hag coming in. But you know what? The honesty about, and not overselling your business, you make mistakes. In my business, you're dealing with people. Now, until I get a cloning machine in the back room and make everybody just like the client wants them, we're going to have peaks and valleys of behavior. Yeah. So being realistic, and a lot of times you're interfacing too with someone that's in your peer group. And the age does get, and the age and experience does give you an edge. Most definitely, it does.
I think that's an interesting takeaway from your story in particular, because I think a lot of women try to juggle everything. And for me, that's one of the takeaways that I'm hearing, is that go ahead and hire the people to work in the office and do the stuff that's not your highest payoff, basically, because you have the most passion about your business and you are the best salesperson most of the time. So I think that's a big takeaway. Yeah.
I'm going to share with you a story. My son is now 48, and I think, somewhere in his late 30s, early 40s, he said to me, he doesn't call me mom, he calls me Lulu. A long story. And he said, Lulu, why in the world would you spend your time cleaning the house and having your head stuck in a toilet when you're deriving somebody from a job to cleaning your house? Because the time that it takes you to do that you could hire somebody else to do it is you could have made triple the money by selling your company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or doing something to advance it. And it goes with saying, we women think that we just can do everything. And we also kid ourselves in that we do everything really, really well. Well, we don't. There's areas going to slip. It's going to slip. So you pick and choose, but what is going to make you a success? You and your work and your passion.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I tell folks that I consult with all the time that, you have to surround yourself with good people, and they have to be able to do the things that you are not, quite honestly, good at. If I stink at accounting, I'm never going to be good at that. And to spend my time on that is a waste of my time and talents. So yeah.
Right.
Totally.
I have a person for you that you can hire just part-time for small businesses. She's actually a CPA. So you've got it done, and it'll save you money in the long run.
Nice. Nice. So you scaled your business. You were local,
Yep.
small business in Maryland, and you scaled your business. At this point, I know you're kind of teetering on that determining retirement status, but at this point, your business is national or international?
No, we're just national. I'm happy with national.
Yeah.
I don't want to go international, but yeah, we are Symphony Placements, that little staffing company in Cockeysville, Maryland, now has people working as far away as Seattle, Washington, as far south as near Orlando, and Texas, Kansas. I could sit here and bore you and name the states, but
great leader in place there. Marta, you groomed her, and she's done so well. Was that a mentorship kind of thing when you brought her on board?
Not really. Marta owned her own staffing company, and she came in to interview me or to vet me because she was consulting for another company that needed temporary people. So she wanted to meet me and what would we do? And, am I the right one that she should hire for the client, or suggest that the client hire? Well, Marta and I talked for 4 hours, and by the end of the conversation said, look, Marta, why don't you just come to work for me? Well, that's how so Marta decided to come to work for me. That was in 2012. And what she wanted was a couple of days a week, and she just wanted to do business development. I said, you can do whatever you want. Just come on aboard. Well, next thing you know, she was working full weeks. And the next thing you know, Marta helped me grow this business. No question about it. Yeah. And as we grow, there are just so many other facets, and you can't control everything. So you need good people to make sure that all the bases are getting covered. Yeah. Now, so in 2012, she started, and we started with let's back up, because you know what? We forgot to mention, when did I get my MBE and WBE?
Oh, that was your growth.
Oh, yeah. Because let's go back to 2007, recession time. I'm trying to figure out where I can get business. So I'm looking under every rock there is. And of course, I ended up saying, well, I've got to get MBE certification, and I got to get WBE certification, DBE, which is disadvantaged business. If you don't do 25 million a year, you're still disadvantaged. So, and I need to get these certifications because there's business to be had. Little did I know at the time, that was one of the smartest decisions I ever made, because in 2009, after I had the certifications, I received, I had a sales lead, followed it up, and I ended up servicing that client because I was an MBE today. I'm in there today. The one state contract that I started on, my client lost it in the last bidding cycle a couple of years ago. So I had that bid for 9 years.
Wow.
If I would not have possessed my MBE or my WBE, there was 9 years of business and or 14 years of business because I'm still servicing that client, but with a different state contract with my MBE.
So you think that opened up a tremendous amount of opportunity for you, but how complicated is it to get WBE, MBE?
I something funny. I'll say I'll meet somebody and they'll say, it'll get into, I want them to know my certifications, and I'll say, Symphony Placements is an MBE, a WBE, a DBE, but just don't call us an SOB. And I said, we've got more initials behind our company than I care to mention. Anyway, always breaks the ice, and people have a sense of humor, and they like to see that you have a sense of humor. But is it hard? No, it isn't hard. It's a matter of giving them 3 quarts of blood or going to the, and just, and your firstborn. That's all the state wants. I mean, why would the state be demanding in any other way? There's a lot of paperwork, big deal.
Is it something that
same information on 5 papers.
Is it something that you recommend getting help with, or was it pretty easy to navigate on your own?
A lot of businesses have bloomed to do your MBE, but I think you're much better to do it yourself. It's not rocket science.
Not complicated.
The important thing too is to make sure, you have to send your personal tax returns. You have to send the business tax returns. You've got to fill out a personal P&L. I mean, there's a lot of personal information that goes into it. When I started Symphony, and when I went in for my interview for if they were going to give me my MBE, my WBE, I was a widow. I was not married at the time. So the only person I had was my son, who is also an entrepreneur. And I put his name on my board of directors. So I was president and treasurer. He was vice president and secretary. So this is how they're still looking at us women, that we're not capable of doing anything, because I remember distinctly in the meeting, well, about your son. Now you listed this Alvin W. Smith, and what relationship? I said, that's my son. And they said, well, how much work or how much time does he spend in your business each week? And I said, none. Well, why do you have him as a board of directors? And I said, I'm responsible for making sure a paycheck is delivered every week. If something happens to me, there's got to be somebody that has signing ability and can make sure that those people get paid.
Yeah.
And she said, well, what's going to stop him from taking over your business? And I said, well, it could be a knowledge, because he doesn't know a thing about it. I said, he is more comfortable with a tool belt around his waist, helping his roofers put on a new roof. I said, but you have to kind of understand the world. Right. You have to be a little street smart. We're in a very turbulent time, and I hate to use the word discrimination. I really do. It's a nasty word. But at my age and holding the positions that I have held throughout my working career, which, are you ready for this? 16 and 57. Does that add up to 73? Because that was my birthday in May, 73 years. Okay. So in 73 years, this is what I get. All right. 73 years. I've seen a lot of changes. When you talk about Ideas 360, honey, I've seen Ideas 360 and maybe, 720, I've seen things that happened. And when I talk to some of our younger people, some of our millennials, and I start telling them stories about what happened to us women in the workforce, they just looked at me like I had 2 heads, like, oh, that didn't happen. Hey, it happened. I was there.
Right.
So, yeah, getting back to the MBE, yeah, you have to understand how it works, and you have to pursue it. I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned in business, owning my own business, is to be a chameleon. And how does that relate to me? It's the ability to change directions and the ability to keep your fingers on the pulse beat of the business community, and not just sit there and cry that you don't have business, but get up and figure out how you're going to get it.
Yeah.
So here we are, open business in 2006. Okay, 2007 doing pretty good. Oh, full-fledged inflation, full-fledged recession in 2008. I got a lease. I've got 2 employees. How am I going to pay these people? So, well, let's see what's available with the MBE, WBE. I went ahead. I spent the time. I got my certifications.
Yeah,
so now
the government's always working, right?
Yeah, hey, and always spending money. I mean, we can jump up to what year was Hogan elected? He's in the middle of his fourth term, so I'm going to say 6 years ago. All right, 2012, 13, something like that.
14.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what happened. Business literally dried up for state contracts in the state of Maryland. All right. Why? Okay. We got a Republican governor who is excellent, but he went back and he told the agencies, we're going to have a balanced budget. So if you can't do the work yourself, you aren't going to hire a staffing firm to do it for you. So all of a sudden, now there's nothing for me to use my MBE on. So what am I going to do now? Well, as a result of getting my MBE, WBE, I had been knocking on the doors, Marta as well. She was knocking more than I was knocking, of all of the international clients that had any type of a contract in the state of Maryland, any type. And we knocked and we knocked and we knocked some more. And that's how we became national.
Wow.
Because those companies work in a lot of human service contracts, but they work on contracts and bid contracts in every county, in every state.
Yeah.
All over the United States.
So the takeaway I get from that is that just I liken it to today's environment, just like with COVID. You have to constantly be willing to reinvent yourself and try new things. Right. Yeah. Innovation.
We do. And we're going to be reinventing we have reinvented ourselves. We have, because, getting back those 30 some years, they wouldn't, no business would even think of an employee working from home. No, I mean, IT jobs were one of the first, and especially if they were, they wanted them available for any office anywhere. They were the first ones to really start working from home with businesses. But what do you all think with all these businesses, with all these high rents, electric bills, all the costs involved, just the coffee bill, for people working at home? Now, all of a sudden, they're more profitable than what they thought they were going to be. The productivity is up. People are happy. I mean, wouldn't you be happy if you're not on the 695 Beltway every day? I mean, I would.
And I have heard rumblings that the staffing industry in particular is going to experience the most growth because
absolutely.
Your talent pool isn't just Annapolis, Maryland or Baltimore, Maryland now. With a virtual work environment, you can put a job out as long as it's virtual. Your talent pool just expanded by 1 million times.
Right. Yeah. So I hope there aren't any competitors out there in staffing, but giving all my little tips away. But we kind of saw the writing on the wall in March, early March, and which will bring me to another key issue I want women to really understand. But we saw the writing on the wall and said, you know what? We better get our people out at their homes. Let's have them working. I don't want them to be threatened by strangers walking through the door. There isn't enough hand sanitizers alive when you're interviewing 12 people in a room that might be 5 by 5, you know? So Marta and I made the decision to put them out and let them work at home. Haven't had a complaint from anybody for so long. It's just amazing. But they're all doing it.
That commute time for anybody has been life-changing. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Now with school out, and especially if you have older children, look at the fact that your children could be playing in another room. You could stop and make them lunch, you know, throw a load of laundry in the thing when you're passing the kitchen, and you know, go on with working the rest of the afternoon. There are so many advantages.
Well, I was telling my son that when I worked at Smart CEO, which I think is where you and I met, that I commuted an hour and a half each way on the days that I had to go in the office. So 3 hours a day of commute.
Right.
And he was dumbfounded. Like, he was absolutely appalled. He's like, why would you do that? And I said,
for a paycheck.
That was just, you know, for a high level job. That's just part of what the game was. So it wasn't all that unusual. Like, you know, most people were used to at least an hour commute a day.
Yeah.
So I think that 2020 has certainly brought about a whole new idea about what commuting is.
Yeah. In 1996, I became a widow. I was 48, and I wanted a major change, and I went to work for a staffing company on Rockville Pike. So from Jarrettsville Pike in Harford County, and I did that for 8 years.
Yeah.
But and then I opened Baltimore offices for them, but I still had, you know, a big commute to Glen Burnie. So I was used to driving. But you know what? That allowed me, some person will say, well, this person lives, I don't know where she lives. And I said, what's her zip code? She says 21206. I said, oh, she lives in Rosedale. They said, how do you know that 21206 is Rosedale? I said, if you were on the street as much as I have.
You and me both. You and me both.
And you end up, you just absorb all that information.
So I think for a lot of the women out there that are running a business, you know, we've talked about getting certified MBE, we've talked about scaling, but what about mentorship and community involvement? Can we just talk about that for a minute?
Well, you know, Suzanne, I am a big giver back. First of all, I'll tell everybody I've taken semi-retirement, started last June. I'm talking to you from my Delaware house because I do all of the back office work for Marta. She runs the show. I make sure the bank statements are reconciled and checks are written and deposits are made. And I spend a couple of days a week. Although Marta's kept me busy because I keep having to apply for states to do business in. So we just started this past Monday. It was another milestone. We started 5 people in Florida.
Wow.
So, yeah. So another new state.
Yeah.
But mentorship and giving back. I also am a firm believer of karma. Karma to me is you get what you give. And you can always find time. Unfortunately, I made the decision to resign from all the boards that I sat on in Baltimore because I knew I just couldn't do the job. You've got to be active. You've got to be at the meetings. And I couldn't see me having to go from Delaware to Baltimore for, you know, a 2-hour board meeting.
But you did that for a lot of years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I collected a lot of pajamas and a lot of dollars for Casey Cares. But that was just one. We had gotten involved in so many different charities. Well, now guess who, up until the virus, I was volunteering at the church and I've been feeding the homeless for the last 6 months. And I've been baking desserts and everything for the people that the church sends out 110 meals every Tuesday and every Thursday. So I've been making food. I've been cooking. I've been baking. I did 9 families for Christmas. Well, let me just put it, I don't care where you are. There's a need for something. And this week I've got to go up to the store and buy personal hygiene products for kids in elementary school at Sussex, Lord Baltimore Elementary School.
So what do you think that, so you and I, we come from the same place. We have the same kind of heart. But as far as like how that impacts your business, what do you think the impact to the business was? Getting involved with community.
Well, it gives you as a business owner a different view of you as a business owner. You get to know people on a personal side. And I think people said, you ought to go talk to Wanda about that, whether she wanted to get the person needed some discussion about what area that they should go in, or if a business was having a specific need for different people. I think it helps. Did it make sure I got business? No.
Right.
But I didn't do it for that reason.
Right.
I did it to make me feel good that I have been so blessed through my working career and my personal life that it just, I need to give back. Yeah. I just do.
Yeah. You and I come from the same place on that one for sure. What about mentorship? So throughout the years, I know you've mentored a lot of women, and I know from my personal experience, I've got women now who are leaders in their own right, and it just warms my heart to see them succeed. What about you? What if, did anybody mentor you early on, or what's that look like?
Well, early on, yes, in many areas that just didn't even have to do with staffing. I was in retail furniture sales for a long time, and having to run a business and good customer service. There are just so many different aspects. You have to work at a lot of different companies because every company has a different culture. And you could always learn. I always said that I learned something new every single day that I went to the office. Every single day I learned something. Yeah. So, I was mentored in staffing, where I really understood how to do a budget and gross margin and the markup and just all through my career, I worked for some very successful people. And I think because my head was on so straight and I wanted to really learn, they mentored me every day, even though we didn't call it that, but they did. Yeah. And to this day, I do remember I got a little note card. And this girl was the girlfriend of my son at the time I became a widow. She was in college at the time and they stopped dating. But I got this a few years ago. It was a few years from 96. So, somewhere in 98 or 2000. I got this thank you note from her that told me this: you don't realize people are watching you, thanking me for setting such an example to her, that even after having the loss that I had, I still got up in the morning. I still put on a suit, she said, and you still drove and went to work. Mm-hmm. And the things that I saw in you, that I wanted to make sure that when I went out and graduated college, that I did the same thing as you did. Mm-hmm. That really, really touched me. I thought this was a little flaky 20-some-year-old. Poor thing. I didn't know she's watching me, and
Yeah, lead by example. Yeah, lead by example.
Yeah.
All right. So let's wind it up. We've talked a lot about your success. We've talked about the MBE. If you had to just boil it down to 3 things you think contributed to your success, what are the top 3?
So honesty, for one. I like to do business with people who have the same moral compass as I do. Mm-hmm. Sincerity, if you mean it, if you don't mean it, just don't even say it. And reading the newspaper.
Why is that?
Well, aren't we all a little intimidated when we go into a big networking group and it's all men in suits? And they got vice president here and division director here. I mean, let's face it, we are all intimidated. I was intimidated by some of them, and that's hard to believe. But what I found was the biggest downfall of a female entrepreneur is that she did not read the newspaper every day. Now, I'm not saying I read the newspaper from top to bottom and I read every article. But if I go somewhere this evening to a network group and the Orioles lost to the so-and-so, if they were playing, I knew the score and I might have saw or read something about a play or something about what was happening in the stock market. In other words, I wanted to have enough knowledge, not a lot, just enough to get me into a conversation that when I walked up to 4 guys standing in a group and I overheard what they were talking about before they came in, I came in and I was able to join right in the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons we feel so intimidated is that we're not sure about what they're talking about. First of all, girls, that you are not going to enter into a conversation about what kind of Pampers your baby wears. And that should not be a discussion when you're in a networking group of women in business.
Right.
That's mommy talking for mommy play, but this is the big world. So put on your big girl pants, read the newspaper, know what the hey is going on in the world, not just in Baltimore, but in the world.
Yeah.
So that you can be taken very seriously, that you are an intelligent, worldly, opinionated, and informed entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good advice. Good advice. Well, we had a few people join us, and Patty DiMaselli was excited to be with us today. We had somebody else said, great info, ladies. I'm in the process of reinventing myself now. And we will be rebroadcasting this on my YouTube channel. So you can search for Ideas360 LLC on YouTube. And we have all sorts of interviews there with business owners and experts and resources for business growth. Thank you so much, Wanda, for being with us today. It was a pleasure talking with you as always. And I really appreciate all of your experience and advice for our listeners out there today.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. It's so good to see you. I miss everybody, but this semi-retirement, not going to network groups.
Well, good to see you. And we'll catch up soon. And for the audience out there, just follow us on YouTube and you'll stay connected to all the CEOs that we're interviewing. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.